Claire almost didn't take the trip. That was the truth she would remember later when everything finally made sense. On the morning Daniel surprised her with the tickets, she stood in their Seattle kitchen holding a mug of cold coffee, listening to rain tap against the window and thinking that nothing felt broken loudly enough to be fixed. Their marriage had gone quiet. Too quiet. No shouting. No slammed doors. Just empty space where warmth used to live. So when Daniel cleared his throat and said, "I booked us a getaway," Claire felt something twist inside her chest. Hope, maybe, or fear dressed as hope. A trip. She asked, "Just us," he said quickly. "No work, no stress. Somewhere peaceful. We need this, Claire." She studied his face. He looked careful, like someone choosing every word before saying it. But he also looked familiar in a way he hadn't for months, and that familiarity pulled at her. She nodded before she could stop herself. They flew south to a small coastal town in Oregon, the kind of place Americans loved for quiet resets, old inns, gray skies, ocean air that smelled clean and sharp. The kind of place where couples went to remember why they chose each other. From the moment they arrived, the town felt frozen in time. Wooden storefronts, narrow streets, a lighthouse standing tall on a distant cliff, white against the dark sea. "This is perfect," Daniel said as they checked into the inn. Claire wanted to believe him. The room was simple and warm, with soft lamps and a wide window facing the water. Waves rolled in steadily, like breathing. For a moment, standing there together, Claire felt a flicker of the life they once shared. That night they walked along the beach. Daniel held her hand. He asked about her work, about her thoughts, about how she was feeling. It felt strange, like speaking to someone she used to know well but hadn't seen in years. She answered honestly but lightly, afraid that heavier words might break something fragile. Later, lying in bed, she waited for him to fall asleep. Instead, she felt him shift, sit up, and quietly leave the room. When he returned, he said he couldn't sleep and needed air. She told herself not to read into it. The next day moved fast. Breakfast at the inn. A walk through town. Lunch at a small cafe where locals talked about fishing and weather. Daniel smiled easily in public, played the role well. But his phone buzzed often, and each time he checked it quickly and turned it face down. When Claire asked if everything was okay, he nodded too fast. "Work stuff," he said. "I promise I'm trying to keep it out of this trip." She nodded too. She wanted peace more than answers. That afternoon, Claire wandered the town alone while Daniel said he needed to make a call. She stepped into a bookstore, then a gift shop, letting time pass. She noticed couples everywhere, older ones walking slowly, younger ones laughing. She wondered which kind they were becoming. On the third morning, Claire woke early. Daniel was still asleep, his face turned away from her. She dressed quietly and went downstairs for coffee. The dining room was empty except for one older man reading a newspaper near the fireplace. Sunlight spilled across the wooden floor. The room felt calm, safe. She chose a table by the window. That's when she noticed the folded paper on the chair across from her. At first, she didn't touch it. She assumed someone forgot it. But then she saw her name written on the front. Claire. Her stomach tightened. She unfolded it slowly. The words were simple. No drama, no emotion. Just truth, written by someone who sounded tired. "I'm sorry to involve you, but you deserve to know the truth. Your husband isn't here just for you. Please meet me near the lighthouse at sunset." Her hands went cold. She read it again. Then again. Her first thought was that it had to be a mistake. Someone else named Claire. Another couple. Another story. But the timing was too perfect. The fear she had ignored for months suddenly had a voice. She folded the note and slipped it into her pocket just as the server arrived with coffee. She thanked her, smiled, and acted normal. When Daniel joined her later, talking about plans for the day, Claire watched him closely. His voice sounded the same. His laugh landed where it always had. But something felt different now, like she was hearing him through glass. She didn't mention the note. They spent the afternoon driving along the coast. Daniel talked about memories, about dreams they once shared, about how he wanted to do better. Claire listened, nodding, holding back the questions that pressed against her chest. Every mile closer to sunset made her heart beat faster. When Daniel said he needed to return to the inn to answer emails, Claire agreed to easily. She watched him walk away, then stood still for a long moment, staring toward the distant lighthouse. The sky was beginning to darken. She didn't know what waited for her there. She only knew that whatever truth lived inside that note was already changing everything. And as she turned toward the path leading to the cliffs, Claire understood one painful thing clearly. This trip wasn't meant to save her marriage. It was meant to reveal it. Claire had never felt fear like this before, yet she couldn't stop moving. The lighthouse stood ahead, stark and white against the darkening sky, waves crashing violently below. The note in her pocket burned like a secret she had been holding too long. She had to know. She climbed the winding path quickly, boots crunching against gravel, wind whipping her hair around her face. Every step made her heart beat faster. Every crashing wave echoed like a warning. She imagined Daniel there, waiting to explain, to apologize, too. She didn't know what she expected, but she needed answers. When she reached the top, a woman stood near the railing, coat wrapped tightly, hands gripping it nervously. She was looking out at the ocean, back to Claire. Something in her stance told Claire she was the one who had written the note. "You're Claire," the woman said softly, turning to meet her eyes. "Yes," Claire replied, her voice steadier than she felt. "You left the note." The woman nodded. "Emily, I didn't know how else to reach you." They stood in silence, the wind gusting between them, the lighthouse casting long shadows on the rocky ground. Claire's mind raced. She wanted anger, confrontation, to scream at the woman and at Daniel. But all she felt was an odd mixture of hurt and curiosity. Emily spoke carefully, her voice low. "I didn't know you existed at first. Daniel, he told me he was divorced, that his marriage ended years ago. He said he couldn't be honest with me yet. He promised me a future." Claire's stomach dropped. Her chest tightened. Pieces she had ignored for months suddenly fit together at the secret calls. The distance, the careful way he smiled, almost rehearsed. "He brought me here," Claire whispered, saying he wanted to fix our marriage. Emily's eyes glistened. "I'm so sorry. I didn't want to hurt you. I didn't even know how to reach you safely until today." Claire's thoughts raced. The man she loved, the man she trusted, had been living a life she hadn't seen. Yet standing there, she didn't yell. She didn't cry. She just let the truth settle in her bones. They talked for hours, though it felt like minutes. Emily shared the full story how Daniel had met her in Vancouver, how their relationship had grown over 2 years, and how he promised her that his personal life was sorted before they could be together openly. Claire listened, each word carving new cracks in the illusion she had held on to. By sunset, Claire knew what she had to do. She walked back to the inn, wind tearing at her coat, thinking about the silence in her hotel room. The suitcase she had packed earlier sat ready. She felt no panic, no confusion, only clarity. When Daniel returned, smiling and asking about her day, she was calm. Sitting on the edge of the bed, suitcase closed, she looked at him directly. "I met Emily," she said simply. The smile faltered. His eyes widened, then narrowed. He tried to speak, but no words came. He opened his mouth, closed it, and finally said, "Claire, I know everything." She interrupted. "The calls, the distance, the lies, this trip. It wasn't for us. It was for her, wasn't it?" Daniel stammered, trying to explain, to justify. I'm confused. I love you, but I didn't want to hurt anyone." Claire shook her head, her voice firm. "You didn't just hurt me. You've built a whole life around secrets. I came here hoping for honesty, for a chance to repair us, and I got betrayal instead." So there was no shouting, no dramatic fight, just the cold, quiet truth filling the room. She packed the last of her things calmly, leaving behind everything that reminded her of him. On the flight home, Claire stared out the window at the coastline disappearing behind clouds. The ocean, the lighthouse, the town, they all faded into the distance. she felt something she hadn't felt in years: liberation. Back in Seattle, she moved into a small apartment overlooking the water. It was quiet, simple, and safe. She filled it with her own things, her favorite books, a few canvases for painting, and her sense of self, which had been buried under the weight of Daniel's lies. Friends visited often, and she reconnected with the life she had paused. She laughed freely, ate without worry, and allowed herself small joys. She painted scenes of the ocean, sunsets, and lighthouses. Memories of the trip that had revealed her husband's deception, but also revealed her own strength. Months passed. The hurt softened but never disappeared. She didn't seek revenge. She didn't look for Daniel. She didn't reach out to Emily. She simply lived, embracing honesty and the peace that came with it. One evening, walking along the pier, she paused at the edge. Waves lapped gently against the wood. The air smelled of salt and fresh rain. For the first time in years, she felt whole. The trip meant to fix a marriage had ended it instead. Yet in that ending, Claire found something far more valuable: herself. She smiled, letting the wind play through her hair, feeling the sun's last light on her face. There was no longing, no heartbreak, just clarity, freedom, and the quiet hope that the future would be hers alone to shape. And as the lighthouse faded behind the horizon, Claire knew she had finally stepped out of the shadow of lies and into her own life, honest, unbroken, and free.